All right, welcome back to another conversation with Chris. Today we're talking to James. James is a registered nurse with a background in psychology, and he's shifted his career path more towards psychedelic psychotherapy. He's been working with psychedelics for well over 20 years. Hi, James. How you doing today?
I'm doing excellent, Chris. How you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. Yeah, so I wanted to talk to you. Obviously, you're passionate about psychedelics. I wanted to talk to you, get an idea about how you got introduced in psychedelics, and then eventually I'd like to hear how your life has changed over the years from your journey on psychedelics and through helping other people with psychedelics.
Oh, all right. So I guess I could start off at the beginning, kind of how I got introduced to psychedelics, and kind of I can move forward from there.
Sure.
Basically, like when I was younger in my like early teens, I was very interested in the music scene, especially like the music scene of the '60s. And then when I learned that they had all taken this thing LSD and it did this thing for them that expanded them, and they had this awareness where they were together, and you could see this marked change in art in that time in history where it was like a visible thing. Even if you had never taken a psychedelic, you could see that there was a big change that had happened in society. And it was something that I was like, well, when that kind of comes my way, I'm going to have to try that out. So it was something that I was just kind of, I knew it would come one day when I was ready. And that's kind of the other big lesson I have about psychedelics is they will come to you when you're ready for them in life. It's something to not push. Kind of universe will line it up when you're ready to have that happen. So when I was at like the age of 19, had my first experience with psilocybin mushrooms. And from that point, I had some like very critical changes in my life, understandings about who I was as a person, changed my relationships, changed how that worked. And I was able to really accept who I was and grow a lot more.
Yeah.
And then that really helped me just become, one step closer into the process. But this is like a process that developed over 10, 15 years where I became really confident about it, to where at this point, at that 20 years down the road, that I feel like I'm at that position where I can maybe help other people, because that one psilocybin experience was the ball that started, but it was really all the culmination of the experiences and integrating the experiences into my life and taking the lessons that I learned to grow from them. And that's like the biggest lesson that you can also take from psychedelics in general, is that it's not the experience that necessarily is the thing that changes you and helps you grow. It's taking lessons that you learn from the experience and finding ways to integrate them into your life.
Yeah. And so you say around 19 was your first psilocybin experience.
For
And
sure.
I'm curious, so that was at that time, were you already on the path to like through nursing school, or did that have anything to do with maybe
So
your interest in psychology and psychiatry?
So when I came out of high school, initially I wanted to become a psychotherapist, and had a poor relationship with my father. He convinced me that that was a bad idea, and I kind of stayed down the path of doing electronics for a while. Had a strained relationship with my father. Was able to break away from myself, especially with the help of psychedelics. And then from my first experience with LSD in my early 20s, I was at a music festival, very kind of traditional kind of story, but the last 2 days, at the second day at the end, I had this LSD experience where I realized that as a human at that moment, I wasn't really doing what I needed to do for the world. And it was a really big understanding moment that I had. Like, I woke up before everyone. I was like picking up all the trash, just realizing that like people need help to get better. And this was where I was like, okay, I need to do something with my life. It was a big transition point. And then I did go into nursing school, and then went into psychiatric nursing, primarily inpatient psychiatric nursing, working with a lot of people with thought disorders, mood disorders, substance abuse disorders, things like that. A lot of trauma, and trying to heal people with trauma. And I learned a lot from those experiences, that what we do right now in traditional medicine is not very helpful for most of the people that are involved in traditional psychiatric medicine. So trying to do something different to actually help people now. So that's why I'm transitioning into a new kind of phase of that.
Okay, so yeah, I feel like in the last say 3 to 5 years, psychedelics have become a little bit more accepted. And you're in Denver, I assume. And are you able to talk much about the changes in laws related to psychedelics?
Absolutely. So during this past election cycle, we had a proposition go through that was called Prop 122. This proposition decriminalized psilocybin mushrooms throughout the entire state of Colorado at this point. So after January 1st, they've been decriminalized. So it's illegal in the state to possess psilocybin mushrooms, grow psilocybin mushrooms, and give psilocybin mushrooms away at no cost to people. So that's been a big jump. The proposition also includes a 2-year time period where other natural psychedelic medicines like non-peyote derived mescaline from like San Pedro cactus will be allowed. Ayahuasca will also be allowed because it's a traditional medicine that's plant-based. So we'll be able to expand our psychedelic medicine palette in the legal sense on the kind of side of what's going on in the clinical sense right now.
Okay, interesting. I'm curious, is there any reason why it's non-peyote mescaline? Because of habitat, or?
So there's a multitude of reasons, but the two primary reasons are that peyote cactus, in order to get to the size where you could actually consume it, it's going to be only a button size, but that button can take 20 to 30 years to grow. So in an environmental sense, we can't have people all just jumping on this bandwagon. And the secondary sense is that the Native American churches had a religious exemption to use peyote as their sacred medicine. And if we tap into that too much, we're really going to be abusing this really like beautiful resource. And the San Pedro cactus can grow in a very short amount of time and grow very large cactus, and it contains mescaline, and that can also be reduced down. So if people want to use it in experimental ways, it's much better for the environment and the sacred side of things to use it that way.
Okay. And you also mentioned you worked for a while with ayahuasca at doing retreats.
Yes, I worked at an ayahuasca retreat center in New England. We did a number of retreats. We'd run weekend-long retreats with multiple ayahuasca sessions, including like rapé and other traditional things like different forms of like kambo, different types of plant medicines and things like that. So I had a lot of experiences of how things can go well and of how things can go wrong with power dynamics from those experiences. People on the tops of those kind of organizations you have to be very, very aware of yourself around people like that, because they can take power to their advantage and really can be in abusive situations with people. So it's something for everyone to always take an advantage when they think of and consider doing something like that.
Okay, are you able to talk about some negative experiences you've had related to the retreat center or owners? It sounds like maybe, you came across some people doing probably not so good things.
Initially, when I came to the retreat center, the leader of this retreat center, he had come across that he had healed himself with ayahuasca, and that it was the thing that took him out of his cocaine addiction, and that he had come all this way. And then when I had met him, he looked really rough, and he was supposedly like fasting for like 40 days, like Jesus, and all this kind of stuff. And I come to find out that he was taking the money from the ayahuasca center and like going on cocaine binges, and then also taking crystal meth and telling everybody one story and using all these words. Now that's the negative portion I had, but all the other people that I ever was involved with at that ayahuasca center were great, and I developed great relationships with people, and I expanded myself. So it was a very tough position to be in, because it's something I grew to understand what was going on later on, especially because I became a volunteer. Initially, I went there to just be a participant, and then I volunteered. So I kind of understood what was going on. You couldn't hide that from me with my career and what I do. I see people every day and what they're doing. I can see through a lot of what people are trying to say from, the surface of what's going on. So just something to be very careful of if anybody's considering that kind of thing, is to look at all the people, and if you get a bad vibe about them, just go. Don't stay.
Yeah. Wow, that's pretty interesting, because that seems so opposite from what I imagine is the norm. Anybody kind of administering ayahuasca, you would think they wouldn't have issues with other drugs like that. But like you say, you never really know, right?
So this center, he didn't give the medicine out. So he would run the center, and he would hire good people that really were solid, heartfelt people to actually do the ceremonies. But he was there, and his presence ran this place. So it was just something that came to my presence to understand what was going on. And then after I understood that more, I realized that other ayahuasca centers have had similar problems. Like there was a place in Florida that's had a lot of problems with weird sexual things going on and manipulation, and very similar issues can arise in any sort of situation where someone can have a lot of power over people. And with these states of induced consciousness, and especially if you're providing people this new experience they've never had before, you have a lot of power over people that you have to be very careful about.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's some pretty interesting experience that you've had so far, and I know you're kind of at the process of transitioning towards more psychedelic assisted therapy. Is there any legal framework to allow that yet?
So we're in a kind of a flux of kind of a legal state. So if you want to use ketamine as an as a medicine for psychedelic assisted therapy, that is totally available, and if you're able to use it. Unfortunately, it's a difficult situation with insurance right now. A lot of insurances don't cover that. In short period of time, MAPS is going to be putting in their phase 3 trial into the government for FDA approval of MDMA as a therapeutic medicine, and you'll be looking at probably seeing that come out about the beginning of next year as an actual prescribed path for PTSD treatment. It's found to be much more effective than our treatments that we have currently right now. So it is in the future of being able to be reimbursed with the government as well. The coding for Medicare billing and such is going to be changing in the next year or so. So that will be a billable code as far as like medical people go. That kind of will make things more accessible to a wider variety of people.
Okay, and then the ketamine assisted therapy. I know that there are some states, I believe, where you can get it at centers. But I'm guessing that's a state by state kind of thing.
Well, ketamine is a very weird kind of situation because it is a legal medicine that any MD can prescribe.
Okay, yeah, okay. That
They
makes sense.
can
Yeah.
kind of come up with a lot of their own ways about how they want to go about it. But the best practice is ketamine assisted psychotherapy, which is going
Hmm.
to lead you through a progression of sessions to learn about what you're going through, help you grow as a person, and then discover what's going to come out of the experiences through integration therapy. So that's the best package for anybody that really wants to go through psychedelic therapy, is they go through a stage of getting to know who you're going to work with, and then going through the sessions, and then working with that therapist or whoever you're working with for a continued period of time so you can integrate the experiences and learn and take the best from them.
Okay, right. All right, and we were talking a bit about psilocybin. Psilocybin also becoming decriminalized here in Colorado. It becomes much more available, and I'd like to hear a bit of your, not necessarily history, but yeah, some changes you've seen in others as well, from the use of psilocybin.
So the close people around me that I've influenced and affected, and I've seen changes in their life. I've seen, my loved ones really take on different perspectives and be able to see life like from a more multifaceted dimension, being able to see things from multiple angles where they may have been like more like one-sided about their view and opinion before. So I've seen a lot of my friends that I've kind of been around and helped them develop along years, like in a non-official therapeutic way. We've really grown together. So this is why I've really wanted to be able to help people grow faster. I mean, it's not a fast train, but I'd rather people be able to get where I'm at right now in less than 20 years. It would be great to see that kind of growth when people are younger and they can really experience life and then live a fuller, happier life their whole entire life, instead of beating themselves through a lot of lessons to try to get there.
Yeah, for sure. And are you able to talk about some of your experiences, how you've changed over the years from your experience with psychedelics?
Sure. I think one of the probably most powerful experiences I've had that really changed everything for me was my exposure to DMT, especially in the smoked form. Before I went into ayahuasca, I had these smoked DMT experiences that had shown me like levels of myself and like levels of what I may have been in the past and levels of what I could be in the future and where my life could go if I would follow that. And from these experiences that were like a flash of information, I was able to like take back big lessons that took a year of therapy after to unfold. But I was able to see that it doesn't matter who I am in the world and how things interact. It doesn't matter if I'm the only person here, if you exist or not. If I can just realize that if you come to me and you need my help, you're just a part of me that needs to be helped because we're all the same. It kind of showed me that we're all in this together and we're all one. Whereas I grew up with a lot of like religious trauma where I was at a point in my life where I was like, there's nothing besides me. I was at a completely atheist point in my life. And to believe that there's actually something greater than myself has changed everything to where I'm much more accountable for how I behave because I realize that if it's all just me and if I behave badly, it only impacts me badly. So that's really the big turning point lessons that I've had from psychedelics. But I wouldn't, if I didn't have the smaller lessons before, I wouldn't have been able to build up to this DMT lesson. Like I had mushrooms telling me for years that there was a God and there was a power, and I was just telling the mushrooms that that was not true. I needed that DMT to kick me and to say, really, hey, you're like not paying attention to what's going on here. You're not taking in the information that you're receiving. You're just kind of denying it. And I was like, DMT has a way of just not letting you deny it. And it's a very powerful medicine that would be very difficult to implement with masses, whereas like psilocybin and MDMA and ketamine are like ready to go and ready to kind of help people right now.
Yeah, okay. And so we talked a bit about the ketamine assisted therapy and that being legal and everything, but with the new framework here in Colorado with psilocybin and some other psychedelics being decriminalized, do you know if there's much path forward to, or do you know what the path forward is to allowing them to be used in, say, medical or therapeutic settings?
Yeah. So currently, what is going on is that you have networks of therapists who are developing centers for like healing, and they're kind of partnering with people that are kind of growing mushrooms, but they're like unofficially partnering with them. So they'll have their clients kind of get the mushrooms from the center and come to their place and then offer them a safe environment to use the mushrooms in and then use that in a therapeutic way. So that's currently what they're trying to unravel right now as a way to do that. As a registered nurse, that puts me in a very weird position where I couldn't get into doing that right now because of the way that my licensure is. But if I were a like licensed therapist and I wasn't giving anyone any medicine, I don't have anything involved with the medicine, it puts me in a better legal position. So it's a slippery slope for different people in their individual professions. They just have to be careful about how they want to help people right now.
Yeah, for sure. It's a little bit of a gray area, probably kind of like medicinal marijuana states before there was any legalization or decriminalization, where people are just kind of using working around things and operating in semi awkward states, huh?
Yeah, but there is some like positive aspect of that stuff that's going on right now, especially in the state of Colorado. The people that I know that are involved in it are trying to do it for elderly people that are in their death and dying stages. So
Hmm.
they're really in like the biggest stages of like compassion. Then they're going to be able to get away with what they're doing right now because, in traditional sense, people don't really they don't get in the way of people that are dying. So
Yeah,
it's a good place to start.
yeah, okay. Well, yeah, you've been a wealth of knowledge, and yeah, it's been interesting to hear more about like your experience with psychedelics and therapy and healing trauma in yourself probably and in others. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention before we go?
I feel like the biggest lesson that I would love everyone to just convey is that the psychedelic experience can be a major experience for growth. But you're not going to be able to grow from it unless you really take that knowledge and try to learn from it after. So just take every little bit that the universe hands you in any experience and take it as a point of growth, good, bad, indifferent. It's something that the universe is trying to show you.
Yeah, I totally agree. Very well said, and yeah, I really appreciate your time, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much, my friend.
All right, thanks. Take care.
Take
Bye.
care.